Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Sang Han. I'm a partner with Sentoventures. I want to first start off by extending my gratitude toward the event organizers, the Megyeong Media Group, the Seoul Metropolitan Government, the KDB Next Round Office, as well as the ASEAN Korea Center. So moving on, you have to give me a second so I can control the screen. A quick introduction about our firm, and I'll just keep this short and sweet. Sentoventures is a Singapore-incorporated venture capital firm investing in early-stage startups throughout Southeast Asia. Our strength or secret recipe is that our team consists of people with extensive experience in investments, government, startups, as well as operations throughout Southeast Asia. And we try to use this as best as we can to help our portfolio. A lot has happened this year, and I think it is a good moment as any to take a step back and kind of relook at the bigger picture. One question that can come up is, what is exactly Southeast Asia? Why is it so interesting? And what kind of lessons does it have for Korean startups? Starting with some definitions. When we say Southeast Asia, it usually means the 10 countries that you see on screen. These all happen to be members of an organization called ASEAN. But from a VC perspective, the story changes because 99% of new VC investment in recent years landed in these 6 countries. We can actually also peel this another layer and go a bit deeper. And what's interesting is that almost 100% of these startups are based in these 7 cities. So if you ask me, what is VC and what is Southeast Asia, then I'll answer that it is looking for startups in one of these 7 cities. So why is Southeast Asia so interesting? Well, it's a big market. Population-wise, in terms of economic activity as well. And it also grows very quickly compared to the US, definitely. And compared to China, well, I think with China, we always want to double check their data, so I won't talk much about that. But compared to Korea, it is definitely a much faster growing region. If we try to look, however, into the field of venture capital investing, what's interesting is that in recent years, new VC investments in this region exploded, growing more than 80% every year. And as of 2019, close to $7.5 billion of investments were made in this region. If we compare that, however, with more mature VC ecosystems like the US or China, Southeast Asia is still very small. And if we take into consideration Southeast Asia's GDP and population statistics, I think we can agree that there's a lot of potential for VC investments to grow much bigger. How about comparing it to Korea? As of last year, Korea's VC investment totaled roughly 3.7 billion US. So Southeast Asia has deployed roughly 2 times the amount of capital last year. I haven't included it here, but coming into 2020, in the first half alone, more than $5 billion of investments were made in Southeast Asia, which already exceeds the total amount of investments made in Korea for the entirety of last year. So it's quite big. And this has happened starting from roughly 2015. Magnus, who was part of Zalora, as well as the broader Rocket Internet Group, were one of the key recipients of significant rounds of funding. And it has continued to be this big, and it's likely to stay this way for the foreseeable future. So this leads us to a question of, so what? What does that mean? Well, we can take a very simplified view by looking at unicorns. I think that's a favorite topic for everyone in this region. The concept of unicorn was first introduced by a US VC in 2013, and it is defined as a privately held company that has more than $1 billion of valuation. And in that year, there were 39 unicorns worldwide and 0 in Southeast Asia. But if we fast forward by a number of years, what has happened is that by 2019, there were 10 unicorns. And of these 10 unicorns, and additionally, there are 2 unicorns that have graduated and went public. And of these 10 unicorns, I would like to highlight these 5. I will get into these a little bit later, but moving on. In addition to these unicorns, there are hundreds of so-called centaurs and soonicorns, which is an interesting expression I've heard, that are in the making. And we expect further growth to happen. Going back to the 5 unicorn companies that I highlighted, what's interesting is that all 5 of these are headquartered in Southeast Asia, founded by Southeast Asians, and they make most of their revenues and business from Southeast Asia. So I would say they're the perfect representation of a local unicorn. And if you look at their total valuation right now, these 5 make up roughly $40 billion US. Korea has 11, which I believe is valued somewhere between 20 to 25 billion. And I think I want to highlight that number as a reflection of how much potential is being concentrated into Southeast Asia. It does not in any way mean that Korea's unicorn landscape is in any way inferior. It's just that Southeast Asia is just too hot. Well, that leads us to today. What has happened? I think the COVID impact has not spared Southeast Asia at all. Just looking at the human casualties, more than 500,000 people have fallen sick to COVID, and there have been more than 13,000 deaths, concentrated primarily around Indonesia and the Philippines. The economic losses for this year will likely amount to 10% of GDP, just perfectly, 10% going away almost over the course of a few months. This overall impact affects almost everything that is unique to Southeast Asia. Exports. Indonesia and Malaysia export a significant amount of oil. Tourism. Thailand's GDP, 20% of Thailand's GDP comes from tourism, and that's all gone. With all the lockdowns in place, domestic consumption has just dropped. And governments in this region have been scrambling to prepare support and subsidy packages that right now, as of today, amount to about $350 billion. Of course, there's also the capital market uncertainties with money exiting the region, and that by itself aggravating the overall risk around currencies. If there's one word to summarize what's been happening, it's basically uncertainty. But if we turn our focus to the world of venture capital investing in Southeast Asia, how does it look like? Well, for the first 3 months of this year, compared to the first 3 months of last year, it doesn't look so great. Southeast Asia new VC investments dropped by 40%. And if we compare it to markets like the US or Korea, where they have relatively been stable, it doesn't look that pretty. If we look at also the amount of deals that have been made, we can summarize that Korea has been very robust throughout the first quarter of this year, despite COVID. US, on the other hand, saw an increase in later stage large investments, while Southeast Asia looks to have taken a significant hit. But what's interesting is if we expand this horizon to the first 6 months of this year, then the picture changes. In fact, compared to US or Korea or even China, Southeast Asia new investments and Southeast Asia new investments by dollar amount all ended up being very robust, probably performing better than some of the other leading VC ecosystems. And that shows roughly in who the winners and losers are. And this, by the way, is in terms of investment dollar amount. The winners obviously are the ones that help deal with the ongoing COVID crisis. And the losers here are essentially the ones impacted most heavily by the unique features of Southeast Asia. So going back to what I mentioned at the beginning, why is Southeast Asia so interesting? And what kind of lessons does it have for Korean startups? I think I want to sum it up with maybe 3 or 4 bullet points. Southeast Asia is where all the new money is converging, and it's going to grow a lot. If you are a startup company, trying to enter Southeast Asia makes a lot of sense. Now, if you are a startup company who happen to be operating in the realm of the winners category, I want to add that you might not want to enter Southeast Asia. On the other hand, offering a little bit of a contrarian advice, if you happen to be a Korean travel or hospitality startup company with enough funding and a great business model, maybe now is the best time to go into Southeast Asia and try to clean up the entire landscape. And it's that kind of perspective that I want to share with the audience for them to consider in how they look at Southeast Asia. Now, a lot of the information that I share with you today is based on our report, which can be downloaded from this link. And I'll stop here. Back over to you, Magnus.